Welcome everyone to the governor's office. Delighted you're here. Just a couple of issues I want to talk about before we answer any questions you have about the events of the week. First, I'm delighted to announce that I am recommending to the Judicial Nominating Board that we reappoint Jim Volz as the chair of the Public Service Board. He's done an extraordinary job for Vermont over the past 6 years. What Vermonters can count on as we deal with all kinds of issues around power costs and challenges ahead is that it would be impossible to find someone as balanced, as fair, as objective, and as decent as Jim Volz. So I am delighted to announce that I will be urging the Judicial Nominating Committee to get him through the process and have his name sent to the governor. And I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to reappoint him once we go through that process. I'm optimistic that there will be agreement among the members of the Judicial Nominating Board that we can't do any better than Jim. So thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being
here. Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity. I'd like to thank the governor for his faith in me and for giving me the opportunity and the honor to serve the people of the state of Vermont for another 6 years. There's a lot of work to do, and the board is ready to do it, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
your service. We appreciate it. And you stand by if Joe and Pat Powden, Moulton Powden in my world, and Jeff and Ted, and is Brent here? Brent Raymond? He's not. Anyone here for Congressman Welch? Thank you. Crowd right in. The next good news, in addition to Public Service Board chair, is that thanks to the extraordinary work of President Obama, Tim Geithner, and the team down in Washington, in the White House, and the best congressional delegation in the country, Senator Patrick Leahy, Senator Bernie Sanders, and Congressman Peter Welch, I am delighted to announce that Vermont will be receiving, directed towards Veta, $13.2 million in federal funding to help get credit to small businesses that are struggling to get credit that they need to grow, create jobs, and revive this economy. As you know, from the President to Congress to myself, the chief priority for all of us is not only creating jobs for those that need jobs, but growing incomes for those that have jobs. And I've said this many times, but I'll just remind you again. On average, Vermonters are making the same amount of money that they were making 10 years ago. And with $4 a gallon oil and gas, with grocery prices, college tuitions, car prices, home prices, everything else rising, we know what a challenge that is. The struggle for businesses as they grow is to get credit, to get money to grow when they need it. And that tends to be the time as they're growing when banks can be concerned about their ability to pay it back. So what this money will do, this federal funding, is allow Veta to give guarantees to other banks in a program that we anticipate will result in a $10 match for every dollar we invest. So our $13.2 million that we've been allocated from this wonderful program will allow Veta to draw down literally $132 million worth of new credit for businesses that desperately need it. So I just want to thank the President, our congressional delegation, and all those in my administration who've worked so hard to make this happen. It's great news. As you know, in my inaugural, we talked about one of the ways that we can grow jobs is to get money, get dollars, get credit to businesses that need to grow. This is going to grow jobs. It's going to grow economic opportunities for Vermonters. It's great news for our state. I want to point out that the reason that Vermont is doing so well under this program is that our congressional delegation has convinced Congress to include small state minimums. And I'm incredibly grateful to Senator Leahy, to Senator Sanders, and Congressman Welch for getting this small state minimum, which frankly gives Vermont a disproportionate share of federal dollars to help us grow jobs. And Pat, Joe, congressional folks, if you have anything you want to add, I'm sure I missed a lot. Go for it.
We just think this is a fabulous opportunity. Veta has a proven track record of being able to leverage other dollars and provide great equity or great lending capacity to Vermont companies. So we're very grateful, too, for this $13.2 million. And I defer to Joe.
Well, we're just very, very excited to be able to put this money to work for the state of Vermont. One of the things we're also going to do is expand our small business and our technology lending. And that's one thing we're very excited about because we believe that the technology sector is really starting to grow in this state and that it will really help those companies, bioscience, software, to really continue their growth. So we're very excited about this, and there'll be more to come about the changes that we're making in the next few weeks, so stay tuned.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, Jeff, do you want to add? No? Thank you.
Just a quick question for Joe. Do
Sure.
you have a sense of how many businesses it will help? Is it?
Well, it so depends on the size of the projects that come in. To be honest with you, our estimate of the leverage is a little larger than the Treasury's. We think that we'll be able to leverage almost $200 million in private capital. So it just depends on the size of the projects that come in.
Is this how does this compare with previous years?
This is, well, there hasn't ever been anything like this. This is a tremendous influx of capital and will really make the organization stronger and also allow us to keep our interest rate, low interest rate program. We've been lending money at 2% during this recession, and I think it's been very helpful in getting companies to do projects they might not have otherwise done, and so we're going to be able to continue that as well.
Is this something you all applied for?
It is.
And,
it is.
And did you have to say, well, we'll divvy it up this way?
We did. We did. The federal statute was quite prescriptive in what it allowed the money to be used for, and frankly, they were all programs that Veta already operates. So it really was almost designed for us. And my staff did a really good job putting a great application together, and we had a lot of support from Senator Leahy and the congressional delegation and certainly the administration, and it was definitely a team effort, and we couldn't be more pleased.
Is there a deadline to use the money?
I believe we have to get it out within 2 years, commit it within 2 years, but the program itself goes on for 7 years.
Thank you, Joe. And I just want to say Veta does an extraordinary job for us, and we should be proud of the work that you and your team does. Just want to point out that, as I go out and talk to employers and say, what can we do to grow jobs, what can we do to help you, they tend to say 4 things. Healthcare costs are killing us. We need a trained workforce to do the jobs of the 21st century. Self-service and broadband, it's tough to do business in Vermont without connectivity. And fledgling young companies say, we desperately need capital. We've got a great product, but we need capital to expand. And this is going to be tremendously helpful to us as we try to grow jobs and economic opportunities. Be happy to answer any questions on any subject.
In terms of the reappointment of Mr. Volz, he was appointed by Douglas originally, right?
Yes.
So why not appoint someone new to put your own imprint on the Public Service Board?
Well, here's the bottom line. The Public Service Board is a quasi-judicial board. They do an extraordinary job. Those jobs, and I hope I've reflected, frankly, in the appointments that I've made in my administration, I don't care what party you're from. I don't ask. I have no idea what party Jim Volz is with, if he's with any party. What I know is he's extraordinarily competent. He's fair. He listens. He knows the issues as we face challenges better than almost anyone. And he cares deeply about Vermont. So I don't think I can do any better than that.
When you were discussing this with him, was there any talk about what he might do with the nuclear power plant down there in Vernon?
Absolutely not. And as
So
you know,
no guarantees of you better shut that thing down, or
let me be clear. Jim Volz, as chair of the Public Service Board, has proven that he is ethical beyond reproach, and he understands his job. His job is independent of the governor or any view that the governor might have. I didn't have the bad judgment of discussing any particular issues with him that he was presiding over, like Vermont Yankee, and he didn't have the bad judgment of bringing it up either, nor would he. Frankly, nor can he. In fact, I suspect, do you want to comment on that,
Sure.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
We didn't talk about any substantive matters. Any cases pending, I can't talk about any cases that are pending or likely to come before us. In fact, as you get into more questions here today, if you start asking the governor questions about matters that are pending or likely to become pending, I'm going to have to leave the room because I can't be here and listen to that. So we didn't talk about anything substantive. We talked about philosophy, the approach, and my track record, and that's pretty much the extent of it.
Maybe we could just talk big picture for a
Sure.
second. What are some of the challenges that face the board going forward over the next few years?
Well, obviously, one big one that the legislature is dealing with right now, too, is telecommunications and extending broadband and cell phone coverage to the rest of the state, replacing Vermont Yankee after it shuts down, what resources are we going to use to do that, continuing to implement the renewable programs that the state has on the books, such as the SPEED program and the standard offer program to help encourage renewable development, and all of those are things that we're dealing with right now, as well as something that we did recently. We restructured the energy efficiency utilities so that it's an appointment model rather than a contract model. That may not mean much to most of you, that terminology, but before the energy efficiency utility was implemented through a contract with the board, and now it's actually been appointed to fulfill that role, and it will be treated much more like a regular utility. And we think that's an exciting development that we look forward to working with VEIC to implement.
Anything that surprised you particularly in your first term?
One thing that surprised me is the thing I just talked about earlier, which is the fact that I can't talk to people about all these matters, and so we're somewhat isolated in that regard, and that was a little bit of an eye opener. I'd worked for the Department of Public Service many years before, and of course we were involved in everything, in negotiating with the utilities, talking to the governor, and had a lot of feedback from lots of different resource avenues that we don't have, that the board doesn't have. The only information the board gets that it can use is what it gets in the hearing room. So that was somewhat of an eye opener. I mean, I already understood that, but I didn't realize exactly what effect that would have when I got there. It was kind of
You
surprising.
talked about your philosophy and approach with the governor. Can you sort of share what that is?
Sure. It's to implement the laws of the state of Vermont as passed fully and appropriately. And so I don't decide what the policy of the state of Vermont should be when it comes to broad energy issues or telecommunications issues. The legislature and the governor does, and then through the enactment of laws, and then we implement those laws. And that's what our job is to make sure that the policies that our leaders put in place get faithfully implemented as they wished it to be.
Is there an issue with the burgeoning docket at the board and your ability and the staff's ability to keep pace with various cases? I mean, it seems like the docket is pretty big right now.
Yes, we're very busy. The level of employees we have right now, I think, are adequate for the job that we're facing, but it looks, but our staffing levels are supplemented by a few ARA Recovery Act positions that go away in a year or two. And so when those positions go away, we'll have to deal with whether or not we would need additional help.
How big is the staff now?
The total board, including the board members, is 27. There are 3 board members. 2 of them are part-time, I'm full-time. And there are 13 staff who exempt staff who actually do most of the serious work. We have support staff and administrators, and the clerk, but the core staff that does the substantive work, there's only 13 of them.
Have you ever had a decision overturned?
I don't think I have, not since I've been on the board.